very good evening, all of you, and welcome to this session. My name is Dhaval. I'm the chief mentor at IMS, and today we are going to have Dr. Rao here with us, who will explain us about the topic: Is Indian economy moving towards a V-shaped recovery in 2021? Now, I'm sure all of us are very intrigued to know about this topic in general. Even I'm very curious because there is a lot of talk about happening that V-shaped recovery, U-shaped recovery, and there are so many different words those are flowing around. So I thought even I am very curious to know what this is all about. Before moving ahead, I'll just give a brief about the institute. I hope everyone can see the slide. So the University of Petroleum and Energy Studies, UPES, is a private university in Dehradun, India. UPES has been ranked amongst the top 50 institutions in management by the NIRF ranking in 2021. Recently, UPES School of Business achieved a new milestone in placements despite being in pandemic at 29 lakhs per annum. That was the highest package. And now I'm coming to the speaker, Dr. Rao. So Dr. Rao is a professor and assistant dean in research in School of Business at UPES Dehradun. He's a PhD in management from Sambalpur University, India. And his area of specialization is finance, whereas his thrust areas are accounting, financial management, risk management, and insurance. Dr. Rao holds an academic experience over 16 years in teaching. His fields of teaching and research interest are financial accounting, management accounting, and cost accounting, working capital management, and so on. Dr. Rao holds a strong flair of research, and his research has been published in leading global journals such as Renewable and Sustainable Energy Review, Energy Policy, Journal of Scientific and Engineering Research, and Journal of Risk Finance. He has published 16 research papers in leading global journals. He has also authored 2 books, and he has been recently awarded as the Best Researcher Award 2018 in Energy by CIMA London. So it's a pleasure to have you here, sir. And over to you. We can begin with the session.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dhaval, for the nice introduction. In fact, you have set the tone right, because since last 2 years, we have lived the situation, and every one of us are aware of the things that has happened in last 2 years. So I'm here just to support whatever we all cumulatively we are believing in with data. So I have just got the data to show you that what has happened and how things will unfold in the future. So entire presentation is based on data only. So I would like to first of all extend my gratitude to IMS for providing this opportunity to interact with the students, because it is always such a great joy and fun to interact with students. And I always feel that the energy what you people transfer to we teachers is just fantastic. So it's always a two-way, and I think today I'm going to be the winner. So starting this session, so the topic has already been well introduced. So you need to also tell me if the slides do not change. So I changed this slide right now. So I hope it has changed.
Yes, sir.
Fine. Okay. So the topic that we are going to discuss, as rightly introduced by Mr. Dhaval, is Indian economy moving towards a V-shaped recovery. So that's what we are going to talk about. There are a few questions that we are going to talk about today with data. First is the VUCA word. All of you are aware of the terminology VUCA: volatile, uncertain, complicated. Okay, so the situation where things are uncertain. So a economy or a country or a state where things are uncertain. And in last 2 years, we have seen that many things have changed. So first, we are going to talk about the situation what we faced in last 2 years. Then we are going to talk about the impact of the COVID, which we've all faced in last 2 years. on the Indian economy. And then we are going to talk about the recovery, and we are going to see that the U-shaped recovery or V-shaped recovery, whatever we are talking about. So is it a reality or they are just gimmicks? And the next question will be that even if we are talking about a recovery, so when are we going to have the recovery? So we need to have an analysis, a scenario analysis, because every other day things are changing. So, in management, we always say that there is no perfect answer, because with the change in scenario, the answers change. So the change in situation will lead to a different answer. So scenario analysis, we are going to see that when the things are going to happen. So 4 questions. Question: what happened? What is the impact? What is the recovery path that we are undergoing right now? And what is going to happen in future with the scenario? So let's start with the first one, that is VUCA world. It is not the first time that we are facing any big challenge or crisis. In fact, in last 70 years, we have continuously been faced with challenges. Starting from 1960, when we had the great oil crisis, stock market crashes, what we witnessed during 60s and 70s. Then we faced, Asian financial crisis till 98. From 98 to 2008, we talked about global financial crisis. We all knew about all the stock markets coming down and all. And in last 2 years, in fact, you can say that more than 2 years, we have faced the situation which is called as pandemic, which is COVID. So it is not necessary that we are facing the situation for the first time. In fact, it is not so. Continuously since last 70 years, we have been facing situations, something or other, which has made the situation very volatile. So now we are in 2020, 21. So what is there for us in store? If you look at the overall contribution of the GDP in the entire world economy, and if I'm talking about the 5 different continents, we all know that the Asia as a continent is the highest contributor, and in it we have got 2 big economies. One is China and there is India. Chinese economy is much bigger than us. We are just 3.27%, whereas China stands for around 15.4% of the global GDP. This is what it was there before the pandemic. So before the pandemic, the whole world, all the different countries, they were trying to get a pie of the overall global economy, and the struggle was continuing. So US, which was having 24.4% of the world GDP, it was a big economy. And with COVID, how things got changed. Now, many a times we feel, looking at the number of cases that we had in the past, we usually feel that India has not fared well in terms of dealing with the COVID. But actually things are not that bad. If you look at the average cases per lakh in the globe, it is 1,790. And Indian cases per lakh is below 1,000. So we can see that India as a country is among those countries who have performed good in terms of the number of cases. But India is a big country. The population is very large. So the numbers will also be very large. But if you look at the size of population that we have, and in comparison to the population, when we talk about the COVID cases, in terms of per lakh of people, you will find that India has performed much better. Many other countries like US, Spain, Chile. So you look at the other countries, even in fact, you look at UK, Poland, Israel, Switzerland, Germany. You look at all those countries and you will find that India has done much better than all these developed countries, and our number of cases have been below the average number of cases per lakh. So we are below 1,000. Now, what about the death cases that has happened in India? So the data, it shows that the situation is not that bad in terms of death cases in terms of COVID. So we are just having around 30 to 60 in a lakh of people. So looking at the number of cases, looking at the number of mortality that has happened, we can clearly say that we have performed good. And if you look at the way we have recovered, you compare it with any other developing nation, okay, you can see the green line. So if you talk about the recovery, you can see that the number of cases that have reduced over the period of time in the given time period in comparison to the other countries, you will find that whether it is confirmed cases or whether it is deaths, India has performed good. So in a very volatile environment where we have faced many things, and I'm not going to repeat all those things because we have lived it. Only one question that was there in our mind: how well have we performed, or how well have we handled the situation, so we don't have to be ashamed. We have done much better than many other countries. The number of cases, if you look at, you feel that they are more only because our population is more. Now, what has been the impact of the COVID cases on the overall economy? The relationship between the economy and the COVID, it was inversely related. So you can see that with the increase in the number of cases, the economic growth was just the opposite. So it was just inversely related. So with the passage of time, as the number of cases grew, our economy started falling down. And when we did all the things whereby we tried to put up the infrastructure, health infrastructure, put a management system at place, at that time, things started changing and our economy also started growing. So there is a perfectly inverse relationship that we have witnessed with the number of cases that has increased and the economic, the growth or downfall that is related to the number of cases. Now, with the COVID, the world had a shock. All the financial markets, they fell. The crude prices, they came down. All the OPEC countries that were there who were producing the oil. Now, one of the major issue with the crude is that you are producing the crude and you are not able to, transport it. You are not able to sell it because there is a less amount of demand. So suddenly, with lockdowns, with uncertain environment, VUCA environment, the financial market crumbled down. And all the stock exchanges, whether it is your New York Stock Exchange, it's Luxembourg Stock Exchange, London Stock Exchange, Bombay Stock Exchange, all these stock exchanges, they witnessed a sharp fall in their indexes. Now, as far as India was concerned, one of the major issue was there was a big shock in both the demand side as well as supply side. Now, demand side, the moment we got into a stage where we had restrictions, we had lockdowns, so the demand reduced. Demand for petrol, demand for consumables. So demand for everything started coming down. So we got into a mode where we were talking about non-essential. So what is non-essential? Now, non-essential, we started thinking that, okay, this is not that essential. We can even do with whatever we have right now. So we started segregating between essential and non-essential. And the moment we felt that things are non-essential, we started reducing the demand. There was a corresponding decrease in income. due to the wage cut, due to the retrenchments that happened. So that also led to a demand shock. Uncertainty again led to a fall in demand. As people were not able to contribute to the work that they were doing, so there was a shock in terms of ability to work from home or putting the labor hours into the segments or those sectors where labor is required. And one of the area where there was a great amount of shock was the supply chain. So everything came to a standstill, and India faced the challenge from both the ends, from the demand side as well as the supply side. Now, let's look at the effect of the COVID on the different aspects of our economy. In order to understand the overall economy, Indian economy, we have to divide them into different segments or different industries. And the best way to understand the effect of COVID on these industries is to look at from the perspective of the ability to provide employment. So how many people are employed in those sectors? So we all are aware that agriculture is the sector which employs the highest number of people, followed by manufacturing, other allied services. So let's first look at the agriculture sector. Now, the agriculture sector, if you look at, you will find that when the COVID actually started, we all felt that there will be a decrease in the outcome or output of the agriculture, but we all will be surprised to know that agriculture sector is the one which gave a positive return, or in fact a positive growth in comparison to all other sectors. So in fact, we can say that agriculture sector was the one which actually saved us from a great downfall. Now, first of all, government did all the things by which it ensured that the supply of agriculture commodities will be there to the general public. Though there were logistics issues, but the agriculture sector performed well. Now, in terms of exports and imports for the agriculture sector, the exports, they performed better in terms of imports. The growth at which we had in terms, or the volatile growth that we had for imports, that was flattening. Whereas when if we look at the data for agricultural exports, you will find that it gradually increased. Yes, there were some commodities which performed better than the other commodities. Like, for example, if you are looking at spices, we did a very good performance in terms of spices, the export of spices. So in short, agriculture sector was the one where we have seen a growth despite of all the challenges. And in terms of export, we did good. Coming down to the other sectors. Now, if you look at the sectors, for example, say, mining activities, or whether if we are looking at agriculture, other agriculture products, so we can clearly understand that the gap that started from 2018-19, starting from 2019 to 2022, we have witnessed that in terms of agriculture commodities, we have sustained it. It is not that there was no fall. There was a fall, but we sustained the growth through the agriculture. Now, looking at the mining activity went into a negative growth. And the negative growth, it touched around minus 25%. And gradually it came down. And in September 2020, we started having a growth. But again, in October 20, November, when we faced the second wave, so we found that again the mining activity actually it came down. Now, out of all the metals that we have talked about, iron has performed very well. But apart from iron, which again bounced back to the positive, the rest of the metals or with the rest of the minerals, if you are looking at maybe, coal, copper, everything, it went down negative. So iron is the one where we had a positive growth, and rest of the minerals or mining, it is negative. Looking at the textiles. So textile had a negative growth in the COVID era. Computers and hardwares, they grew. And computers and you can say IT enabled systems and accessories, they went for a positive growth during this era. In the first part of the COVID, there was a sharp decline due to the closure of the the business. But when things got online, so you must have seen that everything went online. So the moment things went online, computer, hardware, peripherals, they performed well. Now, if you look at the consumer goods, they performed well. Things like air conditioning, telephone, refrigerations, color TV, air coolers, they all, in fact, they went into negative, but only telephone and mobile instruments, they had a positive growth. So in all these equipments, electronic equipments, it is only the telephone which had a positive growth. The rest of them, either they just survived or they went into a negative growth. The machinery sector, heavy machinery sector, that had a big downfall. So you can very clearly see the amount of downfall that it has witnessed. Pharmaceuticals, again, pharmaceutical had a positive effect, because the COVID was pertaining to health. But all the other segments, they did well. But if you are looking at formulation drugs, that actually came down because a lot of emphasis was there for production of the other medicines that was required at that particular time. So pharmaceutical performed good. Construction sector, it went for a negative growth. So it went from 2019, we witnessed a negative growth in terms of the constructions, and it continued till 2020 last. Looking at service industry, so we have talked about agriculture, we have talked about manufacturing, but service, all of us know that in the entire contribution to the GDP, service sector is the highest contributor. Service sector faced a huge negative downfall. And the service sector, in terms of transport, in terms of shipping, in terms of all other aspects of service, we witnessed a negative growth in terms of service sector, and it was quite big, and in fact it is more prominent in relation to any other sector. Agriculture, anyway, it had a positive one, but when we are looking at the services, it had a huge negative growth. Fuel prices. Now, the air turbine fuel prices, that came down, but the airlines, they were not able to capitalize on that because the transportation was closed. Shipping, again, it had a negative growth, but it performed better in terms or in comparison to all other modes of transport. So if you look at all the modes of transport, if I'm talking about railway, I'm talking about air, I'm talking about shipping, so you will find that shipping performed the best in comparison to all the other modes of transport, and the worst hit was the air transport. The road transport, if I give a ranking, in that case, I will say that the best could perform was shipping, second was road, third was rail, and fourth and the last is air transport. The financial services, they also had a sharp decline, but they had a cyclical effect. Because why this cyclical effect happened? Because all of you are aware that at the end of the first or during the first COVID outbreak, during the lockdown, we came up with the financial package. And the financial package had a positive effect on the overall economy, especially on the financial services. So the performance of the financial services has been cyclical. There was a fall, then there was an increase. Again, there was a fall when we had the second lockdown, but you must have witnessed that during the second lockdown, we didn't have much financial package. So it took more time for us to come out of the second shock. So financial services, they performed in a cyclical manner. The bank credit, it grew during that particular time because of the number of people who went for the loans. So though there was a small decline in the bank credit, but if you look at the overall number of credits that has gone, it has increased during that particular time. Let's look at some of the service areas. For example, asset financing services. Asset financing services, they witnessed a great fall, a recovery due to the financial restructuring package that was offered, but again, it fell down. Mutual funds, they performed well. So though there was a decline, but if you look at the overall growth, you will find that the overall growth of the mutual fund is more in comparison to the decline. The telecommunication sector performed well because the number of subscribers increased. Communication services, they performed well, they increased. The housing prices, they came down. Real estate was highly affected by the COVID. So the real estate prices came down, housing prices came down. The industrial output, if you look at, so the industrial output, it came down. So it fell down, and at the end of the 2020, we started having a small marginal recovery. So industrial output was greatly affected by that. Hotels and tourism was greatly affected. Lockdown was there, it was totally affected. But during the second phase, it started recovering. And the rate at which it has recovered is tremendous. So we can say that hotel and tourism is the sector which has bounced back. Maybe this may be due to the change in the psyche of people, where they feel that everything is uncertain, so we need to live the life. So the tourism and hotel, it was greatly affected. Unemployment was huge, but it again bounced back. Now, what we have understood is that there are some sectors who have performed well, and there are some sectors which were badly affected. So we can clearly understand agriculture, health, telecommunication, hotel and tourism, they all bounced back. But if you are looking at real estate, if we are looking at overall manufacturing, service sector, they are still struggling. So there was a great effect in terms of the uncertainty that was there in the economy. Now we are talking about V-shaped recovery. So the question that we are going to answer is, are we going towards a V-shaped recovery? Now, when we say V-shaped recovery, it looks very exciting. When we say V-shaped, it means it is a sharp increase. But V-shape basically means that from negative, we are moving to positive. So a V-shaped recovery, it means that there is a sharp increase or there is a sharp movement from negative growth to the positive growth. So let's see that are we moving towards a V-shaped recovery? The answer is yes, we are moving towards a V-shaped recovery. And what about the other countries? So we can say that every country or most of the countries, they are on the path of V-shaped recovery. India is not an exception. But the rate of growth or this V-shaped recovery is highest as far as India is concerned. There is no other country in the world. You look at all the European countries, all the Asian countries, and you will find that the rate at which the Indian economy is recovering is highest. So you can see in the blue line that the pace at which it is growing, and the other lines are for the other continents. So maybe you can say European countries, America, or Asia. So question is, are we moving towards a V-shaped recovery? Answer is yes, we are. So, and when are we having that? We are having it in 2020-21. We are seeing that we have started the recovery. Now, again, if I divide the entire period, 2020, 2021, I'm going to talk about 2021, then I'm going to talk about 21, and then I'm going to talk about 22 to 24, that is future. So now let's first analyze 2021. Because when we am saying that we are going to have a V-shaped recovery, so I'm dividing this entire year into 3 quarters. First quarter. In first quarter, we have witnessed that major of these sectors, they were in the negative growth phase. Why are we saying that there is a V-shaped recovery? In first quarter, all these sectors, you can see in the red zone, the first diagram, you can see that the red zone, every sector is into a negative zone, debarring a few. Now, the second quarter. In the second quarter, we gradually witnessed that many of these gray areas, they have started down to recover. And many of the sectors, they started coming to the positive range. So whether it is, it is the work that the government was trying to give, the freight, the tariff, the petroleum consumption, because in the second quarter, we started opening up the economy. So we started having the things in positive. So all the sectors which were there in the negative zone in the first image, that shifted to the positive image or positive triangle, and this is the area. And in the third one, the growth was prominent. And in the third quarter, what we have seen that whether it is the construction sector, whether we are talking about the other sectors, so what we are witnessing is that now the dispersion of these sectors is higher in comparison to the same sectors in the quarter two. So quarter one, we started from negative to moving to the positive. In the second one, we moved to the positive, but during that positive also, we are very clustered because there is no much scope of having a bigger leap. And in the third quarter, we gradually realized or we found that these sectors have started growing in terms of their volume. Now, two things which are input for this V-shaped recovery is, first of all, commodity prices. And what we have found is that the difference in the commodity prices, whether it is coal, metal, agriculture, crude oil. So what we can see is that if I take an average of all these, coal, crude, metal, gold, and we can see that the average all commodity prices, it has grown from the second quarter of 2020 onwards. Now, what about inflation? And one of the major issues that we are facing right now is inflation. And what we have seen is that Indian rate of inflation is higher in comparison to all other economies. So some things are positive, some things are negative. So when we look at the overall economy, and when we are looking at these sectors who are trying to bounce back, they are bouncing back. Overall commodity is started performing well, but this also has led to an inflation. So when the commodity prices increase, so we say that there is an inflationary state. So the commodity prices are increasing, but the increase in the commodity consumption on the prices, this will have a negative effect on the overall inflation, and that is going to be a concern for us in the coming times. Now, what about the food production? On what basis are we saying that India is going for a V-shaped recovery? And all of us know that agriculture sector is the major contributor because the largest number of people are employed in agriculture sector. So what is the scenario? So what we have seen is that from 2018 to 2021, the consumption has increased, and the consumption has increased, and also the corresponding the production that has, or you can say a cultivation that has also increased. Now, what about the recovery in the sectors, that is the core sector, for example, say coal, gas, fertilizers, cement? So what we have seen is that the sector which was highly affected and which went into a negative, around 17 or 18% of negative growth, that started bouncing back. And when it is bouncing back, you can see that the rate at which it has recovered. So when I say V-shaped recovery, so V-shaped doesn't only mean that it is positive. In fact, we are moving from negative to positive. Now, we have come down to a stage where we are talking about coming down to an equivalence that is neither positive nor negative. We are at zero. There are few sectors which have started getting a positive growth, but there are the other sectors which are still struggling. So that is the reason why I say that core sector is struggling right now. Even if there is a V-shaped recovery from negative 15% to zero, definitely there is a tremendous growth. But this growth is not positive, it is negative. Again, you look at mining, manufacturing, electricity. So you look at these sectors and you will feel that yes, the sector has started bouncing back, but we are still in negative growth. The shape is V, but we are in negative. Now, what about net merchandise? Now, the net merchandise basically means that the imports and exports. So, as I said, that we performed well in terms of exports, and that led to a situation where we had a positive growth. In the fourth quarter of 2020, we started having a positive growth. And this positive growth has continued till the second quarter of 2020. And in the second quarter of 2020, we faced the second wave of restrictions, which led to again a fall in the overall trade, you can say the deficit. Now, what about the income? We have been talking about these sectors, but the biggest source of money is tax. So what about the tax? So in tax also, we have seen that there was a fall in the tax revenue, especially the GST. I'm talking about GST. So we have seen that the collection of GST has also increased over the period of time. And now the GST collection is good, which is actually giving fuel to the industry, because the GST that we are collecting, that will again be channelized towards the growth of the industry. So it's a very positive news for all of us that the GST collection has started increasing. Now it is again at an all-time high for the entire 2 years. So 2021, we are seeing that it is at a very good stage. What about the foreign cash inflow, because our economy can not only sustain on the basis of taxes. So we need to have foreign inflow. Look at all the countries and you will find that India had a positive net foreign fund inflow in the last decade. In the last 1 year, in the last 1 year. So what we have seen is that the inflow has come in the form of foreign currency in India, which is again having a great impact on the overall inflow. So what we have is foreign inflow, what we have is tax revenue, a good industrial production, a good service output, and a good agriculture sector. So that is what is required right now. And out of these five, I can say that we are good in three. One is inflow, tax revenue collection, and the third one is agriculture sector. So the question was that, so does it mean that we are on the growth path and the economy is having a V-shaped recovery? Answer is yes, it is having a V-shaped recovery. It is very much evident that we had a growth of 4.2% GDP in 2019-20, and it is minus 7.7 in 20, and in 21-22 we are expecting around 11%. And if you look at the last quarter of GDP growth, we were around 20% of GDP growth, which was unprecedented growth for the last quarter. So if I go for the entire year also, I can say that 21-22, we are going to have a very good growth. So moving from 4.2 to minus 7.7, and then again moving towards a GDP growth of 11% in 2021 and 22. So what we have seen is that, are we in a V-shaped recovery? Answer is yes. But does it mean that the things are very positive? Answer is no, because still most of the sectors, they are in negative segment or negative part of the growth. So now you are in negative growth, but this negative growth is gradually decreasing and we are moving towards zero. Some of the sectors we have already seen that they are into a positive growth phase, but most of the sectors, they are still in negative growth phase. So if someone says that our economy is in a V-shaped recovery, we don't have to be very happy about it. The only reason is that we are moving from negative to positive, but we are still in negative growth. Now, another question that comes up is that, are we going to have this growth, or do you want to tell me that 2020, 21 or 21, 22 is the years where the things will change? And again, what is the certainty that things will not again may go bad? Because we were talking about third phase. Every other day we are seeing that there is a new virus which is being talked about. Some different variants, Delta, Zeta. So with every new news, we always feel suspicious that what will happen in the future. So only having this information that V-shaped recovery is there, we should not be happy, because we need to understand that what will happen if things go bad again. Number one. Number two, does it mean that if we are talking about V-shaped economy, everything is great? Because many a times when people talk to us, they usually tell us that everyone is saying that the economy is growing, but where are the jobs? Because there is a huge amount of unemployment still there. People are being sacked. So where is the growth? What exactly the growth that we are talking about? So the answer is yes, we are growing, but we are reducing the negative one. We are still in negative. So the question comes up, when are we going to get into positive? So for that, the answer will depend upon the scenario. So we always say best case scenario, worst case scenario, optimum scenario. So let's have a scenario analysis that what might happen. Now, we have in the past, we have come out of the global financial crisis. And as I was saying, that in last 70 years, we have always been in some or the other problem. So COVID was something different because that was something to do with the health and well-being. But rest of the time, we were always in some of the other soup. So we already have an experience how to come out of these situations. So we have already handled the global financial crisis very well in comparison to all other countries. So we can handle. Now coming down to the scenario. Now when we talk about scenario, again, we can say that what will happen if the GDP will grow by 12% in 2021, 6.5% in 2023, 7% in 23-24. Okay, so when I'm giving some scenarios, so one scenario is that where the growth of the GDP is higher. So what I'm saying is that you have a higher GDP growth. The second scenario is that the growth of the GDP will not be that good. So in both the cases, there will be a V-shaped recovery. So you can see in this that, the downward part, what we are seeing, that there will be a V-shaped recovery, which will happen in 2021 when the trend will reverse. But the time that will take for the recovery is different. So the point is that when we talk about scenarios, so scenario is based on the different economic parameters. And on the basis of the parameter, the pace at which we will have the recovery, that is going to vary. Now, so we have taken three scenarios, and the three scenarios that I am talking about is the worst case, the best case, and the average one. So we are taking three different scenarios. And we are saying that what will be the projection till 2024-25. So the unemployment rate, which is there right now in 21-22, it will be there till 23-24. So if you ask me that if the economy is going for a V-shaped recovery, does it mean that the employment rate will be better and we will get jobs and so on? The answer is it is not going to happen that quick the way we are anticipating. The overall employment rate is going to remain the same in 22-23 as well. There will be a marginal difference in terms of unemployment. We are going to see a positive effect in 23-24. So if you ask me that with V-shaped recovery, are we going to get the jobs? Answer is we have to struggle for another 1 year till 2023. Now, if we are looking at the inflation rate, so the rate of inflation what we have seen that is going to be there, it will be sustaining in the coming year, which is 22-23 as well. So the overall inflation rate is going to remain more or less same, or in fact there might be a bigger inflation in 22-23. And what is the effect of the inflation? Effect of the inflation is that the real income for the people that reduces. So if the real income is reducing, so overall consumption that we can do, that also reduces, which again is you can say a factor, a limiting factor for the overall growth of the economy. So unemployment, it is going to be there for the next 1-2 more years. What about the inflation? Inflation will be there, which will be a negative factor for the growth that we are anticipating. What about the lending rates, interest rates? Because all of us know that interest rates, they have a huge impact on the overall recovery that we are looking at. So with the high inflation rate, what we are anticipating that the rate of interest will remain the way it is for the next 1 year. If things become very positive, in that case, we will have an interest rate which is a competitive one. And we are going to have a good interest rate maybe in 2023-24, where the industries will be able to get the money at a proper interest rate. But till that particular time, there will be a lot of, you can say, rate cuts. There will be a lot of, restrictions in terms of raising money. So if you ask me that what is the industrial output that will happen in the coming time? So the industrial output, if you look at, that is going to be negative, overall negative in 22-23 as well. If things are very positive, best case scenario, in that case, we might have around 2.04% of positive industrial output. Otherwise, it will continue for 23-24 as well. So what about industry's output for 23-24? Till that time, the industrial sector is going to struggle. So what about the overall GDP? Are we going to perform well? So the overall GDP, if you look at, you will find that the growth of the GDP will be there in 2023, 22, 23, 24 as well. And continuously this growth will be there. But this growth, if we have to sustain, at that case, we need to follow a very focused approach. So what is the focused approach that we are talking about? India is a vast country. It has so many states. Now, if you look at COVID, different states have been affected differently. Now, if I look at agriculture, states like Karnataka, Kerala, Maharashtra, Uttarakhand, they have been greatly affected. If I look at mining, Assam, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Rajasthan, they are highly affected. Manufacturing sector, Gujarat has been hugely affected. Uttarakhand has been hugely affected. Construction, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, Arunachal Pradesh. What about services? Now, when we are looking at services, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Telangana. So the point is that India is a huge country and every state, they have been affected differently by this pandemic. So if we are looking at a V-shaped recovery, the V-shaped recovery, if we have to move from negative to positive growth, we need to have a focused approach. So this focused approach can only be done at a state level where we can actually analyze and see that what is the effect which is there at the state and how it is affecting the overall economy, and then what sort of measures can be taken for reversing the trend, moving from negative to positive. So that's all for today's session, and I think you must be having some questions, so I'm open for questions.
Amazing. I am, what I was looking for from this session, I think I have got it all. So I'm very much content with the entire data. So what is coming to my mind is a very famous quote which Mark Twain has said, that there are lies and there are damned lies, and then there is a statistics.
Yes.
So what I have realized in last probably 1.5 year, and I think all the participants will agree to me that there are a lot of things which are going around, that okay, GDP will increase or unemployment will decrease, but these are all so vague and so subjective terms that nobody is actually talking about data. And I mean, data is the new oil. We all agree to that. Without data, there is not going to be anything. So I think. And another part is when we Google out something, when we try to make sense out of that data, it is not actually data. We get a lot of a lot of things which we cannot make sense out of. So I think
Yes.
today we really got amazing insights into a very segregated, I would say, flow, as moving from agri to manufacturing, then services, and then looking at impact sector wise, state wise, a very thorough, detailed analysis. I thank you for all of this efforts that have gone in. So there are a few questions. So I think in the
Yeah,
interest of
please.
time, we will probably take maybe 3-4 questions. One of the
Fine,
questions
please.
which I have after looking at the presentation and what I have been hearing. So there is a lot of talk about this, as you said, V shape, U shape, and so there is something like K shape recovery, which is now people are talking about that some industries will recover and some industries will not. So as I gather that
Yes,
maybe
yes,
agri
yes,
and pharma is on the uptick. At the same time, real estate and services have kind of taken a hit and might take some time to recover. So
yes.
so are we expecting some kind of a combination of V and K, or is it going to be a K? Because that is also a question from a couple of participants. So
Yes, that's true. That's true. The point is that with this COVID, uh, there has been a paradigm shift in terms of the way we have been doing the things. So technology is the buzz now, and many things what we have been doing in the past, now they feel that that is redundant, and there will be a change in the way we are going to do the things. So what I personally foresee is that these sectors where which is very much uh, heavily you can say unskilled labor one, where most of the people who are working are unskilled, number one. And number two, if they don't move from the traditional way of doing the things to the technological interventions, so the possibility is there that they might gradually phase out. So there are the industries, core industries where we talk about. So there are a lot of automation which is going to come in now, because what we have realized is that many things can be done in a different way. So your question is that are we going to have V, U, and K? Answer is yes. K will definitely be there. K will be there, but right now that K what we are talking about, you can only observe that K after 5 or 6 or 7 years.
right,
Right now what we are going to witness is that it is going to be a V-shaped recovery only. V-shaped recovery till 2024-25. Till that time, everything will start bouncing back.
correct.
But during this particular phase, some industries, they will realize that they have to be competitive. They have to have that edge. Otherwise, they will phase out. And that time you will actually understand, or you will get to know that which one are the industries which will gradually they are phasing out if they don't invent or
If they don't
reinvent.
follow suit, right?
Yes, yes.
So now you mentioned 24-25, and I mean, as I said, that there are a few questions along that which even I had on my mind. That we spoke about in 2017, the size of Indian economy was around say 3.2 trillions, and now it might have contracted a bit. So we are probably sitting at around 3 trillions.
Yes.
And a couple of years back, our prime minister envisaged India to make a 5 trillion economy by 2025, 24,
Yes.
25. And
Yes.
I think the Indian government has not changed the outlook on that front. So what do you think is, even with the best possible scenario that you showed, is it touching 5T
No.
realistically possible?
No, it is not realistically possible. Right now, it is not. That was, I was saying that in the last quarter, we had a growth of 20%, more than 20%, and it's a big number. If you look at 20, why that is looking so big? Because we are moving from negative to positive. So obviously, when the government puts a figure saying that 22% or 20%, it looks very good. But actually, if you look at the figures, they are negative. And as I said, that by 2025, it will be great if we come down to what we have lost. I'm very realistic on this. So if you ask me that, are we really going to have that dream realized by 2025? I say no, it is not possible right now in the given condition. It is
Okay.
not.
Okay.
But Yes, if you are talking about maybe next 5 years, next 5-year plan, it is possible, but not this 5-year plan, it is not possible.
So probably in a decade's time, we'll be
Yes,
closer to
in
that.
a decade time, we will definitely touch. There is no doubt about it. Because
Right.
the way at which we are recovering, that is fantastic. So that shows that we have that resilience. We can always bounce back. But there has to be a certain time period which has to be there where you bounce back. So that time is not there. So definitely we will not be able to achieve that.
Right. Right. One interesting question has come up from our one of the participants, that we have been speaking about the bigger industries and coal, petroleum, uh, agriculture. So can you suggest something for the startups? So how startups can take advantage of this V-shaped economy, or what are the things that they should look out for? Because I'm sure that a lot of startups would have faced a lot of difficulties in last 2 years, especially
Yes,
because of not having deep pockets, or maybe
yes,
the business models would have changed dramatically.
yes.
So any
Uh,
any thoughts on that?
yes, yeah. We need to understand the difference between any venture and startup. Startup is something which is not yet been done. For example, if I'm coming with an organization, just setting up an organization and doing a business which someone has already been doing. So I cannot say that it is a startup, because now when we look at the meaning of the word startup in after post-COVID situation, it is something new. Now, if I'm taking the definition of startup, that is new, something untapped. The future belongs to startup. Why? The reason is that, as I said, that we have realized that things have to be done in a different manner. A different perspective have to be taken altogether. Technology has played a big role in that. And the rate at which the technology is getting developed, it is actually changing the pace of doing the work. Everything is changing. Here, the startups have the biggest role, because when we are looking at startups doing something which is not yet being done, here the role of technology is really huge. So, is the future is all about startups? Yes, they faced problem during this initial phase and this particular testing time period, that has actually been a blessing in disguise for the startups.
Great, great.
Because
So sorry, please.
so that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
This has been a blessing in disguise. And now when we are recovering, so now if things have to be done in a different manner, startups are the one which are going to take the lead. They are the one who is going to change everything in the coming times. And I must tell you that this is the right time to go for a startup.
And that brings me to the next question from another participant, that considering these startups and these pandemic will have long-term effect on certain sectors like housing, for example. So
Yes.
we know that after a lot of people started working from home, the
Yeah.
the real estate prices in Bangalore and Hyderabad, they fell drastically.
Yes.
So will it see a general shift in the in the overall demographic distribution of the country going forward? So the question is along those lines. A couple of students have asked this.
Yeah, this is a very interesting question. Yes, definitely we are going to witness that in the coming times, because the way we are working, the way we are doing the things, that is changing. Now, when that is changing, it means that there will be a lot of, we can say, a reverse flow of manpower, uh, because everything is online. Then movement of people from one city to another for the work and so on, that will reduce drastically. Now, once that is reducing drastically, we are going to see a demographic change. That is anyway that is going to happen. And in fact, I have witnessed this. People have started now coming back to their roots, because what they are feeling is that if we have to work, why not to work from our own hometown? If everything is online, if everything can be done online, if it is permitting, especially if you look at the IT sector and all, you can see that in IT sector, people have started going back to their hometown. So definitely there will be a change in the demographic due to the mobilization of manpower, reverse mobilization of the manpower.
Okay, I'll probably take another because there are a lot of questions which have come in. I'm just so all the participants. What I've done is maybe your question is not directly taken, but I have linked that question to something else in the interest of time. Another question which I really found interesting is uh, how will the recovery pan out for the lower and middle income strata of the country? Because as all of us agree that after a sudden shock like this, the, the wealthy people keep on getting wealthier, and the poorer people get on they keep on getting poorer, and the divide sort of increases. So what can we expect, and how probably to arrest that?
In my opinion, I think it is the lower income group or the middle income group which will fare better than the upper strata. The reason is that, you know, in economy we have been talking about supply side management. Supply side management is whatever we are manufacturing or whatever we are producing, we are trying to consume it. So that is supply side management. Demand side management means that you manage it from the perspective of the demand. So reduce the demand. So economists have been living with this particular thought that if we want to do good to this Mother Earth, we have to reduce the demand. And reducing the demand has a spiraling effect because it will have an effect on employment, recession. So it has got a big effect. But if you continue to do the demand side management for consistently for some particular time period, after that you find that there is a positive effect on the overall economy. Then you don't talk about a 5 trillion economy, 10 trillion economy. No, then you don't talk about that. Then what exactly are we talking about? We are trying to minimize our demand to a certain level and keep it is stagnant. It is there. If it is 5 trillion, it will always remain 5 trillion. Though there will be marginal increase, but 5 trillion. That's what we are aiming. We are not aiming that after from 3 to 5 to 10. No. Now, why the lower strata and middle strata will be in a better position to deal with it? Because they have realized that demand can be controlled. And they are well equipped to manage their demands. But if I'm looking at upper strata, the risk to which they are exposed to is much bigger in relation to this lower strata and the middle strata.
Absolutely.
So if you look at from the overall perspective, you will find that the lower strata is struggling. But actually, it is the upper strata which is struggling right now. And that struggle is much bigger than this. That is for sure. And this will be a blessing in disguise if we realize that, demand can be managed.
Right.
That will be there. And I think, even when I talk about economy, I say next decade is for green economy. That's it. So the moment we are talking about green, we are talking about sustainability. Sustainability means you have to manage the demand. You cannot have a sustainable earth without managing the demand. And COVID has taught us that demand can be managed. We just have to focus on that. If we reverse it once again, and if we go on, again moving to supply side management, then that will be devastating. Again, we will be entering into another loop. So the only solution what we have is demand side management, green economy.
Right. Super. I just have one last question, which is regarding the UPES.
Yes.
So a couple of students want to know that what kind of opportunities that they can get into after doing it from UPES, and if you can just show some, shed some light on the placements, etc.
Okay, fine. UPS offers two types of courses. First is the domain specific courses. Second one are the core courses. Domain specific courses like oil and gas, aviation, power. So, and second set of courses are general courses, finance, HR, marketing, and so on. So you have got two different types of courses which are there in UPS. So what is the benefit of doing it from a university which is both domain as well as core? So if you are getting into a domain, it means that you will be prepared for a specific industry. So you will be a specialist. And if you are going for core, where you are choosing any certain function, at that time, again, this functionality can be tested in all these different industries in this university, because you have an aviation department, oil and gas department, power department, so logistic and supply chain department. So you have all those departments. So even if you are taking a core course, at that time also, you have a wider application of what you are learning. So you can test it in oil and gas, aviation, and you can become a specialist in finance or marketing or HR. Okay, so first of all, what sort of opportunities that you have here? So you can be a specialist either in domain, or you can be a specialist in core. So that is the first benefit that you have if you do any course from UPS. Second is, if you look at placements, because placement is important, because you have already introduced, I think, Dhaval, in the very initial statements, that this year we have just started off with the placements, and we had Accenture on the campus who took students for around 29 lakhs, and Deloitte was there 2 days back. I think they have also taken around 10 students from UPS at a package of around, I think, 11 or 12. So placement, it's okay, fine, the companies, they come and they take the students, but what is more important for you is not just getting a job. It is how an institution prepares you for that job. So what I can ensure is that UPS provides those opportunities where you develop your personality, where you develop or enhance your knowledge. You have knowledge which is employable, because we focus on employability. So your education or your knowledge should be employable one. So focus will be there on the employability. And if your personality, your knowledge, your employability, if these three things are there, you will be placed in any of the organization. So placement is, they are good. In fact, the marketing team will share the statistics and all, but I think placement is good at UPS. And the best thing is that the core has to be prepared for the student, and that we put a lot of effort in providing that core to the student, so that he can be employable in long term. That is more important than just giving a job to the student. So there, yeah, that is important.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Rao, for all those insights and answering these questions, which all the students and even I had a couple of them in my mind. So I thank the entire UPS team for taking out time and having us here, having here with us. And I think then we can conclude the session. Thank you all the participants.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dhaval.